You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance, Monday, May 6th. I'm Dean Obeidallah. As always, hoping to be your MBFF. I hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had some fun. Did some maybe outdoors things. I didn't really do outdoors things. I went on MSNBC yesterday, I always like doing that. That was fun, and wrote an article. So it was a typical thing for me. But let me start today with something a little different. I call it my moment of Muslim. I do it on my podcast, I Want to Be Your Muslim Friend, which, if you're interested, it's a short form podcast. It's not long form. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and all those places. You can check it out. But the moment of Muslim here is actually important. And it'll just take a minute and we'll get into the news of the day. Because today is the first official day of Ramadan. It's the first full day of Ramadan. And briefly, if you don't know what Ramadan is, I just want to share with you. As we all want to learn as progressives, we like knowledge. We like to get smarter. So if you don't know what Ramadan is, here it is. First of all, you probably know it's a month long. It is the most sacred month of the year for Muslims. And what it commemorates for Muslims is it's the month, it's basically during this month that God first revealed the first verses of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. So that's what it's about. That's where it started from. What it really is now during this month is a month of spiritual renewal, of discipline as well. The idea of contemplation with your relationship to God and more charity, that's a big part, and generosity, and fasting. Why fasting, you ask? And I ask as well. Why fasting? I mean, why? Why? But there's a reason why. The practice of fasting is, yes, it's about discipline, the sacrifice to God. You don't eat from sunup to sundown and give up on certain other things from sunup to sundown. But on some level, it's to make you have empathy for those who are hungry and those who are less fortunate and those who don't have food. So you know what it feels like, so that you will be more inclined to have empathy and support and help them. And that's a big part of it. And, you know, one of the 5 pillars of Islam is charity. Zakat, it's called. And that's a big part of my faith. It's helping people and donating and doing what you can, and empathy and caring. And that's really what Islam's about, not by the crazy, horrible people you see on the extreme side out there doing things in the right-wing media trying to define all of my community by the worst 0.0001%. And it started, today is the first full day. It'll go through June 4th. It's based on the lunar calendar. It could be June 5th. I mean, in the lunar cycle. And they'll look at the moon and they'll announce it like a day before too. And it moves every year based on about 11 or 12 days based on the moon. So if you're going to say, if you know someone's Muslim, what do you say to them during Ramadan? Not like, man, you must be hungry. Don't say that, because that happens a lot. You can say Happy Ramadan or Ramadan Mubarak, means Happy Ramadan or Festive Ramadan, or Ramadan Kareem, which means like, I hope you have a generous Ramadan, sort of like, I hope everything goes well and it doesn't hurt too much that you're not eating. Just say Happy Ramadan or what's up? Hey, what's going on? That's all fine. So let's get to the news. And Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live on Saturday helped us get into some of the news I want to touch on. It was a topic that Michelangelo was just talking about. I heard the last part of his show as well. And first, here is SNL, Colin Jost, one of the anchors, on Steve Cohen, the congressman, being a bucket of chicken to Congress to mock Bill Barr, the Attorney General, for not showing up for his hearing before the Judiciary Committee. So let's hear clip number 1, please.
Attorney General William Barr refused to show up for a congressional hearing because I guess our country just has no rules anymore. So Democrat Steve Cohen brought in a prop chicken and a bucket of KFC to make the hilarious and subtle point that Barr is a chicken. Yeah, it was awful. And you know who really hated it? The other people in the room who had to smell and watch an old man go to town on a bucket of chicken at 9 in the morning. And just think about the poor intern who had to go find a KFC at dawn and order a 12-piece bucket and then be like, oh, no, it's for my boss. He's a congressman.
So you had that going on. And then, and right before we play this clip, there's some breaking news. The Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, has said officially they're not going to turn over Donald Trump's tax returns, despite the fact they were requested by House and Ways Chair Richard Neal pursuant to a federal statute, and he has every right to get it. They're saying no. Why are they saying no? Because Trump's a king, and you don't, you can call him my lord, perhaps, but you can't ask him for anything. No no oversight, no questions about Russia, no questions about obstruction, nothing. That's the king said. So we've got that going on. And this next joke by Weekend Update is so perfect in that regard. Let's hear clip number 2, please.
House Judiciary Chairman Jerrold Nadler said that if the Justice Department doesn't hand over the unredacted Mueller report by Monday, he will initiate contempt proceedings against Barr. Man, just steal the damn report. Why is this so complicated? They found 30,000 of Hillary's deleted emails. I'm sure you can find a bootleg copy of that Mueller report somewhere. Why do they keep trying to play the rules with this guy? Democrats deal with Trump like white parents deal with screaming kids at supermarkets. Trump's just kicking over pickle jars and knocking over boxes, and they're like, I'm gonna count to 40, mister.
He's absolutely right. I mean, the feckless way, the toothless way in which the Democrats have responded to Donald Trump is something we've talked about before. There's no need to relitigate it. I want to start out by first saying there was an interview with Nancy Pelosi that ran in the New York Times over the weekend. And parts of it I love. I think she's so on the point. But part of it near the end, and I'll get first to what I really like about it, and I think we can all agree. First of all, she talked about her personal fear, and she did not share it with the media, leading into the November 2018 midterm, that if Donald Trump only won by a few House seats, if the Democrats only won by a few House seats, Donald Trump would have done everything he can to say Democrats really didn't win the House, delegitimizing the election, and trying to even not let the Democrats swear in members to take over the House. I agree with that 100%. And I don't know if I said that on air or not leading into it. Maybe I didn't on purpose because I was really worried if we only won by 3 or 4 seats, he would do that. We won by 40. Couldn't do that. By 40, we won. And we won by a margin of over 8 million votes, the biggest margin since Watergate era in terms of a midterm election. That's how great we did. But Nancy Pelosi said she was expressing now her concerns, then saying if we win by 4 seats, by 1,000 votes each, he's not going to respect the election. He would poison the public mind. He would challenge each of these races. He would say, you can't seat these people. So she added, we had to win. If we hadn't won, don't even imagine, she goes, going forward, we have to have the same approach. I agree and share that 100%, that concern. Secondly, she said something else, and this is something we have talked about on the show. She talked about we must beat Donald Trump in 2020 by a big, quote, margin, so he cannot challenge the legitimacy of the victory. She goes, we must inoculate against that. We have to be prepared for that. I could not agree more. And it's a conversation we've had on this show countless times. That how is this going to play out? No one, if you're rational or sane and you've been following along what's going on, expects Donald Trump to engage in a peaceful transfer of power in the way other presidents have. I don't know if he'll just whine and tweet until the last moment when the new president's sworn in. It could be something as simple as that. It's all rigged. And then the new president gets sworn in and he's gone and he's still out there whining. It's illegitimate. Or is it something even more sinister and dark? And I'm hoping we don't ever get that more dark point. I can deal with him tweeting all day. But for those, by the way, who are concerned that Donald Trump's not going to recognize the election if he loses the Electoral College and it is certified by the Constitution, we're just going to swear in a new president in January. His powers disappear. It's not like you have to ask the president to give up your powers. No, your powers disappear. They're gone. They dissipate. They're ephemeral into the air. You have nothing. The new president is sworn in. That person has all the powers. He or she has all the powers of the presidency. If Donald Trump will not remove himself from the White House, we will gleefully have someone evict him. That would be a cherry on the victory Sunday, huh? So I agree with both those things by Nancy Pelosi. But, and here's the but. It's what Michael was just talking about, I believe. She said that we have to own the center left, own the mainstream, which I don't like putting those together. I own the center left, I get. Own the mainstream, yes. She said we should not be talking about impeachment. And she goes, we have to talk about healthcare, bigger paychecks, cleaner government. We can do both. I refuse to say we can walk and chew gum at the same time like it's a compliment. Folks, everybody can walk and chew gum at the same time. If you have a friend who cannot walk and chew gum, your friend's got a problem. If you have a friend like, look, let's just stop walking. I want to chew some gum. There's something wrong with your friend. Everyone, so there's no compliment to go, of course we can do this. But here's what I think, what I wish people in Congress would remember, and even my fellow Democrats out there who are like, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about impeachment. Let's talk about the issues. The Congress is charged with their responsibilities under Article 1 of the United States Constitution. That's where their job comes from. It's not a game. It's not ambiguous. It's very clear what their job is. And that includes oversight. The presidential candidates who are running for president, we have a vast number, every day it gets bigger. They will articulate the issues that they have as their platform, that they're championing for the American people to vote for them. Now, they can also, of course, attack Trump, but that's not all they should do, and no one's just going after Trump. The House Democrats, you're not running for president. Your job is oversight of the president. That's your job. It's not an option for anybody. There's no, I don't know, we should do oversight. Should we push the administration? We don't want to make headlines that we're being too difficult on Trump and look too partisan. That's your job. You had to know that before you ran. If you do not like your responsibilities under Article 1 of the Constitution, there's a remedy for that. You can resign and someone else can fill your seat, and they will do it, I can assure you. And I'm not saying Speaker Pelosi should resign. I'm not being that kind of strident about it. I'm just talking about the other members of the House. I think what's lost, and I know what she's looking at, and she's looking at the poll numbers. Poll numbers show, and there was a new poll over the weekend, less and less Americans support impeachment of Trump. There are an NBC poll over the weekend which showed almost half of Americans believe if you combine impeachment with continue to investigate Trump, almost half of Americans agree with that. But just impeachment alone, it keeps ending up around 35%. And part of that is Trump has been so effective at framing what the Mueller report said with the help of Bill Barr. And Democrats have not. And I think right now, too much of the Democrats are focused on just the obstruction argument. And something came out today, which is really great if you want to prosecute Trump for obstruction. But I think what's lost is Donald Trump's association and acceptance of help from the Russians. And I think that's got to be talked about in the same breath. Every time a Democrat talks about obstruction, they should be talking about what Donald Trump did. And let's be clear, our own U.S. intelligence agencies in January 2017 concluded, all of them, that Russia attacked our government to help Donald Trump. That's why they did it. The Robert Mueller report verified that. Just the Mueller report we got a few weeks ago. In fact, reading from the Mueller report, says the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome, while the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts. And as Malcolm Nance last week was on the show, and I had him on specifically to detail what Russia did and the spectrum of their attacks on our 2016 election. It was not a couple of Facebook ads like Jared Kushner lied to the American people knowing it. That was just gaslight Kushner. It was very clear. They infamously attacked the DNC and then gave those emails to WikiLeaks, who weaponized it. And then Donald Trump used those stolen emails, knowing they were stolen by Russia, because DHS, Homeland Security, said in October 2016, these are emails stolen from Russia. They said it publicly. Trump cited them over 100 times. But beyond that, beyond social media, the Russians attacked our state and local board of elections. In Illinois, and I keep bringing this up because I'm hoping it percolates through everyone and we start talking about this and the media starts talking about it. The Russians not only attacked the state and local board of elections, but in Illinois, and we're speculating it's Illinois, but we know it's in the Mueller indictment specifically, there's 500,000 Americans by Russian military attack had their name, their address, their driver's license, and partial social security number stolen. That means they are now all potential victims of identity theft at any point. Yet not one time has Donald Trump demanded to know what has Russia done with the data of 500,000 of our fellow Americans who are clearly victims of Russian cyber hacking. Are they using that to create new fake Facebook accounts or new Twitter accounts? We don't know the answer. And Trump has never one time talked about these real American victims of Russian military cyber attack. And I think the Democrats and the media should ask at least that question to Trump. Have you at least asked Putin to destroy and to verify he destroyed all the data that he had stolen through Russian military? And now, secondly, on obstruction, today, there's some breaking news earlier in the day, very interesting. More than 370 former federal prosecutors who worked in Republican and Democratic administrations signed on to a statement stating clearly, in their view, that Robert Mueller's finding would have produced obstruction charges against Donald Trump if he had not been president at the time. And I'll read some of it. It says, quote, each of us believe that the conduct of President Trump described in Special Counsel Mueller's report would, in the case of any other person not covered by the Office of Legal Counsel policy against indicting a sitting president, would have resulted in multiple felony charges for obstruction of justice. They went on to say, these are not even close professional judgment calls. That's how remarkable it is. They said, but look at these facts, and a prosecutor, there's no doubt, could have sustained a conviction for obstruction of justice. And they go through 3 parts. And I'm glad they picked on the one that I keep talking about over and over and over here, which is the clearest violation of federal law that Trump did, and that's the witness intimidation. But they gave 3 examples in their letter where it says it satisfies all of the elements for obstruction of justice. And it talks about Trump's efforts to fire Mueller and to falsify evidence about that effort. 2, Trump's efforts to limit the scope of Mueller's investigation, to exclude his conduct. And 3, and here it is, quote, the president's efforts to prevent witnesses from cooperating with investigators probing him and his campaign. And that's the one I keep talking about. Donald Trump's attacks on Michael Cohen specifically, Paul Manafort as well, but Michael Cohen, and first through telling him through his friends that, hey, if you don't say anything, Trump will take care of you. And then when he flipped, Trump, in his own words on Twitter, there's not even speculation, saying things like, you should be looking into Michael Cohen's father-in-law. There's no good faith basis for that. That was simply to deter Michael Cohen from cooperating with the government. That is like witness intimidation 101 in violation of federal law. It's also obstruction. So that's where we are. And by the way, this letter was signed by people like Don Ayer, a former deputy attorney general in the Bush administration, John Martin, former U.S. attorney and federal judge appointed by 2 Republican presidents, Paul Rosenzweig, who served as senior counsel to Kenneth Starr, and the list goes on and on. So here, I agree, Nancy Pelosi, 100%. I don't think Donald Trump peacefully allows a transfer of power, especially if the election is close. If we blow him out, perhaps that's the only scenario. We win like 32 states, 33 states, and he's just destroyed. Then, if it's close, he won't. But here's what I disagree with. I think we have to keep Donald Trump on the defensive from now to November 3rd, 2020. And not for partisan political reasons, but because it's good for the Republic. It's good for our nation, and we have the basis to do that. We have the Robert Mueller report here. And, you know, when we come back, I'll give you some timeline from the Kenneth Starr report and how quickly the Republicans moved. Once they get Kenneth Starr's report on Bill Clinton, how quickly they moved to an impeachment inquiry. That's what they call it. That's what I want from the Democrats. Not an impeachment vote, not articles of impeachment, an impeachment inquiry. And I want them to use that term, impeachment inquiry, just like the Republicans, because that term gets the media to focus. It gets our fellow Americans to focus. And then you will see public opinion change when all of our fellow Americans realize how much Trump was happy to accept the help of the Russians, even though it was not a criminal conspiracy. It's just despicable, and it might not be a crime, but no one should be in the White House who accepted the help of the Russians and was willing and able to take it and did take it. And secondly, witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. And third, abuse of power, which is not a federal crime in this scenario, but it's again impeachable. Other presidents have been impeached on it. That's why it's so important to call this an impeachment inquiry, just like the Republicans did to Bill Clinton, because that gets the media to focus. And if we do that, my friends, it makes Donald Trump all of a sudden now him saying no tax returns today, fighting subpoenas, legal subpoenas served on finance companies like Deutsche Bank and others. All of a sudden it looks like obstruction again. Right now it just looks like, you know, normal politics, left, right, fighting each other. It's not. This is not normal. Folks, what, for 1 second here, I know this is cliche, but I want you to think about it. What if President Obama accepted the help of Russian stolen emails during the campaign to win over Mitt Romney in 2012? And we knew he accepted it because we found out afterwards. And we knew the Russians that were helping Obama because they worried about Mitt Romney. And then there was an investigation of President Obama. And President Obama went to Twitter to intimidate witnesses so they wouldn't cooperate with the government. Does anyone listening for a second doubt Republicans would have begun an impeachment inquiry within weeks of getting the independent prosecutor's report? Of course they would have. And you know what? They would have been right. They would have been right to do that. And that's what the Democrats have to do now. The right thing to do is this, because if not, all of us who worked so hard to win the election in November 2018 and win 40 seats and have an 8 million margin victory there, we all wasted our time. Because the Republicans would sit around and do nothing, just the same. Paul Ryan could do the exact same thing. And they won't even subpoena things. At least we're doing that. But now there's going to be a fight. They're going to go sue. We're going to get documents in years from now. That's my point. We all worked hard. Why did we work so hard if you're going to do the exact same thing the Republicans did, which is nothing? Nothing. I mean, seriously. We are the last line. We are the watchers on the wall. We're the last line for this republic. It is up to us. It truly is. And I know we are up to it. We just need our Democratic leadership in the House to stop sitting around in a room and calculating things and going, oh, impeachment, it's not good for us. You know what? Donald Trump has given his base an entire red meat diet. It should come with a health warning, is so much red meat, over and over and over. And what do our leaders want to give us? The old play it safe diet. Well, that's a loser, folks. And I'm not saying that we should ever do the Trump bigotry, racism, sexism. No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you have a choice to do the right thing, impeach Trump, or at least have an impeachment inquiry, that's all I want, an impeachment inquiry. And call it that. It can go over 2 to 3 months. And then you'll make a decision. But if you're not going to do that, how much better are you than the Republicans in that had the House before? And it breaks my heart to say that. And again, I so admire Speaker Pelosi. I praise so much of the other things. But there are times we have to stand up as progressives and as Democrats and push our leadership to follow the progressive base and the Democratic base. 62 to 70% of our base, and poll after poll, says they want to begin impeachment, at least impeachment inquiry. So let's take a break. I'd love to hear from you. I really am so intrigued to what you think. And if you disagree with me, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear it. And if you agree, what can we do? Do we have to start calling the House members? That's where it really starts. Go to town halls like we did for Republicans for healthcare, but going to Democratic town halls and being respectful. They are our Democratic representatives, but pushing them to say, will you commit to an impeachment inquiry? That's all we want. Impeachment inquiry. And keeping Trump on the defensive, because he deserves to be on the defensive. 866-997-4748. I'd love to hear from you right after this break on the Dean Obeidallah Show.
Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.